April 19, 1865. The American Civil War is officially over. The guns have fallen silent. Generals have surrendered. Soldiers on both sides are exhausted after 4 years of bloodshed. Most men are thinking about going home. But in Greensboro, North Carolina, danger is still very real, and one Union officer is about to ride straight into it. While everyone else is laying down their weapons, this man is preparing for one final act of courage that will become one of the most daring moments of the entire war. Surrounded by enemies, with no guarantee of survival, he will do something so bold that it will earn him the Medal of Honor. This is not a story about a massive battle. This is the story of one man, one mission, and a fearless ride into history. That man was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, serving with the legendary 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry. During the Civil War, cavalry units were some of the most dangerous assignments in the Army. They rode deep behind enemy lines, gathered intelligence, captured enemy officers, and often found themselves outnumbered and cut off from support. As a lieutenant colonel, he was not just a fighter, he was a leader, responsible for the lives of the men under his command. By April 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing, but many enemy officers were still armed, desperate, and unpredictable. Some were trying to escape, others refused to accept defeat. In this chaos, the Union Army needed someone brave enough to step forward and bring the final pieces of the war to an end. That someone was this cavalry officer, a man who would soon prove that even when the war was over, true heroism was not. This man knew that even though the war was finished on paper, it could still claim lives. A single bullet, a single mistake, could end everything, yet he did not hesitate. Mounting his horse, he rode straight toward the enemy. What happened next would earn him the Medal of Honor and make his name part of American history. This is the story of one man who refused to stop fighting for peace, even after the war was supposed to be over. The man behind this incredible story was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, serving with the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry. During the Civil War, cavalry units were the eyes and ears of the Army. They scouted enemy positions, captured officers, and rode deep into hostile territory where danger waited at every turn. This lieutenant colonel was not only a skilled soldier but also a trusted leader, respected by the men who followed him into battle. The 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry had fought across the South, chasing Confederate forces and breaking their supply lines. By 1865, the Union Army had won, but pockets of Confederate resistance still remained. Some enemy leaders were trying to escape, others were hiding, and some were planning to continue fighting. It was the job of officers like this lieutenant colonel to hunt them down and bring the war to a final, peaceful end, no matter how dangerous the mission might be. By mid-April 1865, the Confederacy was in collapse. General Robert E. Lee had surrendered just days earlier, and the news spread slowly through the South. In many places, Confederate soldiers had not yet received orders to stand down. Fear, confusion, and anger filled the air. Greensboro, North Carolina had become a gathering point for Confederate officers trying to regroup or escape. Union forces moved carefully through the region, knowing that even though the war was technically over, violence could still erupt at any moment. Armed soldiers, desperate leaders, and civilians caught in between made every mission dangerous. A single mistake could turn a peaceful surrender into a deadly ambush. It was into this tense and unpredictable environment that the lieutenant colonel of the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry was sent. His task was simple but deadly: locate and capture Confederate officers still operating in the area. But no one expected just how risky his mission would become. On April 19, 1865, the lieutenant colonel rode into Greensboro with determination and bravery. Instead of waiting for a large force, he advanced quickly to confront Confederate officers who were still present in the city. At any moment, he could have been surrounded or shot. Even though the war was ending, these men were still armed and dangerous. He rode directly into enemy territory, relying on courage, leadership, and confidence to complete his mission. Facing hostile forces alone, he managed to take control of the situation and successfully capture Confederate officers who were still resisting Union authority. It was an act of boldness rarely seen, especially at a time when most soldiers believed the fighting was over. His fearless actions prevented further bloodshed and helped bring a true end to the war in that region. One man, on horseback, changed the outcome through sheer bravery. For his extraordinary courage on April 19, 1865, in Greensboro, North Carolina, the lieutenant colonel was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military award in the United States. His actions stood out not because of the size of the battle, but because of the incredible personal risk he took to protect others and bring peace. While many soldiers were already heading home, he chose to ride forward into danger. His bravery helped prevent more violence and ensured that the final chapter of the Civil War ended with honor. Today, his name may not be widely known, but his courage remains unforgettable. He represents the kind of hero who does what is right, even when the world believes the fight is over. One man, one mission, one moment that changed history forever. As the dust of the Civil War finally settled, one man stood out not because he fought the largest battle, but because he showed the greatest courage when it mattered most. On April 19, 1865, in Greensboro, North Carolina, when the war was supposed to be over, this lieutenant colonel of the 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry chose duty over safety and rode straight into danger so that others would not have to. His bravery prevented further bloodshed and helped bring a true end to one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Medal of Honor he received was not just for capturing enemy officers, it was for his fearless leadership, his willingness to risk everything, and his commitment to peace. His story reminds us that real heroes are not always found in the biggest battles, but in the moments when one person stands up and does what is right, no matter the risk.